Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday evening here with us on our YouTube channel. We hope you guys are all doing well. I'm going to carry on, as usual, with the Rabash articles. If you're new to the channel and you're interested in the Wisdom of Kabbalah, you can always check out our courses called Semester 1, 2, 3. They're all on YouTube. They're absolutely free. And if you're even more interested, you can go to Kabbalah.info, and you can, in fact, even take a course at the Kabbalah Academy or the KabU Academy, and really move forward in your spiritual life. How's that for a Tuesday evening? Let's carry on with 15, article number 15, the excerpt number 15, actually, and we'll see how things pan out from there. All right, as you know, these lessons are a little bit more advanced, and we're reading excerpts from Kabbalistic sources and, well, preparing for the morning lesson. Let's see how we go. Right, the topic is the whole earth is full of his glory. Also, as you know, we've got a congress happening on the 1st and 2nd of July. And if you haven't registered yet, do register. Okay. This is excerpt number 15 from Rabash. By your actions, we know you. It is written, the whole earth is full of his glory. As it is written in the Zohar, there is no place vacant of him. Yet we do not feel it for our lack of tools of sensation. We can see that with a radio receiver, which receives all the signals in the world, the receiver does not create the souls. Rather, the sound exists in the world, but before we had the receiving device, we did not detect the sounds, although they did exist in reality. Likewise, we can understand that there is no place vacant of him. But we need a receiving device. That receiving device is called adhesion and equivalence of form, which is a desire to bestow. When we have this machine, we will immediately feel that there is no place vacant of him, but rather the whole earth is full of his glory. All right, as usual, let's read it a second time. It is written, the whole earth is full of his glory. As it is written in the Zohar, there is no place vacant of him. Yet, we do not feel it for our lack of tools of sensation. We can see that with a radio receiver, which receives all the signals in the world, the receiver does not create the sounds. Rather, the sound exists in the world. But before we had the receiving device, we did not detect the sounds, although they did exist in reality. Likewise, we can understand that there's no place vacant of him, but we need a receiving device. That receiving device is called adhesion and equivalence of form, which is a desire to bestow. When we have this machine, we will immediately feel that there is no place vacant of him, but rather the whole earth is full of his glory. All right, so this is actually nice. It's a nice example, right? On the one hand, the Kabbalists are saying, look, there is the creator. On the other hand, if you don't feel the creator, there is no creator. All right, so they're leaving us in a bit of a dilemma, but here he explains the situation rather nicely. He says, if you believe in the creator, like the religious people do out there, because somebody told them, all right, and that's called blind faith, okay? So he says, well, you know, the whole world could be full of the creator, or could not be. Who knows? Okay, nobody knows. So you got the believers and you got the non-believers. All right. So Rabash takes a very nice stance. He says, listen, I may not feel the creator, but there may be a creator. But if there is one, you know, we should come to feel it. And if I don't feel it, I can't say there is one. Does that make sense? All right, so there is sound, he says, with the receiver. There is sound in the world, but if I don't have the receiver, I don't feel there is a sound. Okay, so if I don't have equivalence of form with the creator, a vessel where I can like perceive the creator, well, there is no creator, is there? You can say whatever you want, okay, but he says there isn't. So what we need, he's saying, is a device. We need a soul, basically. Okay, so that we can perceive the creator in equivalence of form. Okay, that's that perception of equivalence of form with the creator in the attribute of bestowal is called a soul. Okay, so the soul is the receiving device, and we need one of those. Okay, unfortunately, we don't have one because we're not born with one. So we need to make one from the study, from scratch. Well, I wouldn't say from scratch because we've got the dot in the heart, but it's pretty much from scratch, let's say. Okay, so that's just how it is. All right, this is really important to understand because you don't want the wisdom of Kabbalah to be confused with all the religions out there who, believe there is a God creator. Well, I'm sure there is, or maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But if I don't feel it, how can I be certain? I can never be 100% certain. Okay, so we need a soul, a device, like he says here. So then we can understand who the creator is, what the creator is. Even if there is such a force, if I don't feel it, if I don't have a dialogue with it, a relationship with it, what good is it? All right, so what good is it? So, okay, great. Let's say there's electricity, but you can't make any use of it. Well, great, so welcome to darkness, that kind of thing. And the same kind of thing here. So we should strive to build ourselves a soul. Let's go to number 16. We should understand why not everyone has the sensation of godliness, since it is written, I fill the heaven and the earth, and the whole earth is full of his glory. And yet we do not feel anything. The answer is that where there is no clothing called the returning light, the upper light is regarded as non-existent from the perspective of the emanated being. And because the whole meaning of the returning light is that he receives only according to the intention to bestow, as long as one has not emerged from self-reception, he does not have this returning light. Thus, although the whole earth is full of his glory, it is regarded as non-existent from the perspective of the lower one. It follows that the only thing that one must do in order to achieve the goal is to focus all of one's work on one point, to be able to dedicate all of one's free time for the sake of the Creator. This is the meaning of everything is in the hand of heaven, but the fear of heaven. This means that the Creator gives everything. The upper lights are already prepared for a person, as in more than the calf wants to suckle, the cow wants to nurse. And all we need is a vessel. After the restriction, this vessel is called a screen and returning light. And this is what connects the upper with the lower. That is, through it, the lower one connects to the upper one. Okay, so let's read it double time. We should understand why not everyone has the sensation of godliness, since it is written, I fill the heaven and the earth, and the whole earth is full of his glory, and yet we do not feel anything. The answer is that there is no clothing called the returning light. The upper light is regarded as non-existent from the perspective of the emanated being, and because the whole meaning of the returning light is that he receives only according to the intention to bestow. So as long as one has not emerged from self-reception, he does not have this returning light. Thus, although the whole earth is full of his glory, it's regarded as non-existent from the perspective of the lower one. It follows that the only thing that one must do in order to achieve the goal is to focus all of one's work on one point, to be able to dedicate all of one's free time for the sake of the Creator. This is the meaning of everything is in the hand of heaven, but the fear of heaven. This means that the Creator gives everything. The upper lights are already prepared for a person, as in more than the calf wants to suckle, the cow wants to nurse. And all we need is a vessel. After the restriction, this vessel is called a screen and a returning light, And this is what connects the upper with the lower. That is, through it, the lower one connects to the upper one. Okay, so as long as we're in a desire to receive for ourselves, we're never going to be able to feel the Creator. We need to change the way we perceive and feel reality. So currently, in our egoistic state, we're only feeling ourselves. So we're all like living in a little box. And because we're in this narrow view of the world, living in this little box, unfortunately, there's no way we can feel the Creator. We can only feel something if I have some kind of an equivalence with it. So the Creator is only bestowing, and we're only receiving. So we've got nothing in common. So this is why the whole world is like full of His glory. Also in space, the space is dark, but there's light all over the place. Why? Because you need something to hit the light so that you can see the object, right? Otherwise, you can't see the object. So this is why space is black. It's not because there's no light, because the same sun rays are going everywhere, right? But you need the light rays to hit something so you can see what it's hitting. Okay, and that's what we need, a screen. So if the Creator is acting onto us like a light, I need something that can feel that light. And the only way I can feel that light is if I've got some equivalence of form with the light, right? What is the light? The light is the Creator's attitude, His approach to us. So if my approach is all self-reception and His approach is all giving, it's like, well, there's nothing to talk about, okay? Because there's nothing I can feel. There's nothing I can feel there. So what do I have to do? I have to build what he calls a screen, which is an intention to bestow. So if I can connect with the same degree of intention to bestow as the Creator, then what's going to happen is we're going to have a clash, right? It's like going to be, I've got rays, he's got rays, and the rays are clashing. Okay, so then we can feel each other. We can say, wow, he's giving, I'm giving. So we've got some kind of a contact. So that screen is a way of changing myself from reception to bestowing. And this is why we need that intention. And intention is called the screen, where if I intend to bestow, then the Creator's bestowal should touch that. And then I should have the returning light, right, off the screen. So the screen is what equalizes us with the Creator, okay? And that's the intention to bestow. Now, remember, we're always going to be a desire to receive. We were created initially as a desire to receive, and we always will be a desire to receive. But what's changing here is how I use my desire to receive. If I use my desires just for self-fulfillment, that's opposite the Creator. But if I use my desire to receive in order to bestow contentment to the Creator, because the Creator wants to give, and if I take in order to bestow back, then the intention is what equalizes us. All right? So the Creator's intention is to fulfill the created being. That's why He's bestowing. So if my intention then changes from self-reception to bestow to the Creator, and I use His desire, right, the Creator's desire to bestow to me, I'm using His desire to give back to Him. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how it is, and that's called the returning light. So the Creator has got direct light always coming to the person, but we cannot feel it because we don't have equivalence of form. So we need that screen, just like in space, we need something to touch that sunlight that's in space so that we can see that there is light. Otherwise, you can't see there's light. That's why it's pitch dark in space, okay? Because the lights are not bouncing off anything. All right. Item number 17. Okay, how are we doing so far? All good? We've got one question. All right, let's close that. Let's close that. And then Rachel's asking, do efforts to connect with the Creator by praying for others' benefit produce reflected light? Well, it certainly helps us to get out of our skin, that's for sure. Okay. Why? Because because we're egoistic and in self-reception, we're always thinking about ourselves. So the minimum, the first thing I need to do is stop loving myself. All right. So that's the first thing we've got to start thinking about doing. How can I do that? I can do it if I think of others. So praying for others is actually a way of stopping self-thought and self-love. That way I can focus on somebody else. Now, if I don't think about myself, then I should have, if I'm thinking about others, the benefit of others all the time, if I'm always thinking about that, then there should come a time when I begin to feel that. Why? Because I'm not thinking about myself. What am I building? I'm building a screen, aren't I? Because I'm not using my desires. I'm just wanting to do good for the other. So that means I stop thinking about myself, and that starts to build a screen. And slowly, 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 we should get one. That screen is also something we should be getting from the Creator. Why? Because getting a screen means change of my nature. I can't change my nature, right? But if I constantly think about others, and I want to think about others in order to bestow to the Creator, like the Creator is bestowing to us, then I'm demonstrating to the Creator, listen, I want to change, right? So put some backbone into it, kind of thing, all right? So the person can then ask the Creator to give him a hand, because he created us in an egoistic form. So he's the only one who can change us. But I've got to kind of put it out there so he knows about it. So that work in the group is especially important, because the more I think about the benefit of others, the more I'm able to stop thinking about myself. And then I can start to get kind of like, as they say, purified, let's say. Okay? Like kind of cleansing myself from my self-love. All right. Where are we? Number 17, right? Okay, 17. This is only when one exits the place of reception. See, this is the first place of reception there, okay? So I stop thinking about myself, all right? That means I'm stopping self-reception, okay? But prior to exiting reception, one can only believe that this is so. Because if I haven't done it yet, obviously, there's no Creator and there's nothing to talk about. To be able to feel this, we're given the advice to exit the place of reception, which is the place of darkness and death. That is, the light of life cannot appear, although it is present, but it is covered from man. And one who comes to that place becomes separated from the source of life. So as long as I'm still in my desire to receive for myself, it's called darkness, right? I can never feel the light and the pleasure. This is why every time we feel pleasure in this world, it disappears afterwards. It's never constant. So you keep having to run after stuff. Okay, it will never be constant because of this law. Okay, hence that place is called darkness and death, and every kind of calamity is present there. This is called the other side, meaning it is the opposite of holiness. A place of holiness is called a place of bestowal, and is a place of equivalence of form. This is why in that place appear all the delight and pleasure, as it is a place of blessing and holiness. Okay, and that's basically it. So only when one exits the place of reception, but prior to the exiting of reception, one can only believe that this is so. So we're working like scientists, right? We have an assumption. If my desire to receive is working all the time, this is the reality that I'm feeling. So the Kabbalists are saying, well, let's make an assumption If I stop living like this and stop receiving for myself, can I assume there can be another way of perceiving reality? It makes sense, right? It's an assumption. All science starts with an assumption. So to be able to feel this, we're given the advice to exit the place of reception, which is the place of darkness and death. So this is why we die in this world as well. Okay, we're constantly running after all kinds of desires, run, and then that's it, game over. So, and also we can't get any pleasure. It's also the bad thing, right? Because the pleasure cancels the desire. So you're always left running after more and more and more, and things will never change that way. Okay, that is the light of life cannot appear, although it is present, but it is covered from man. So because of this inequivalence of form, we can never feel constant pleasure. And one who comes to that place becomes separated from the source of life. Hence, that place is called darkness and death, and every kind of calamity is present there. This is called the other side, meaning it is the opposite of holiness, a place of holiness called a place of bestowal. Is a place of equivalence of form. This is why in that place appear all the delight and pleasure, as it is a place of blessing and holiness. So it just is telling us once again, all I have to do is invert myself from reception to bestowal, from receiving everything for myself to bestowing. And that will change my perception of reality. Number 18. A person does not say to the Creator, if you give me a good feeling to feel that the whole earth is full of his glory, I will be willing to believe. Rather, when he has no knowledge or sensation of spirituality, he cannot accept the burden of the kingdom of heaven and observe spirituality and the commandments. Rather, he must accept the kingdom of heaven unconditionally. Now, this is also important. Why? Because if I told the Creator, listen, show me yourself and show me what I need to do first, and then I'm going to do it, then that would be an egoistic way of getting things done. Why? Because I'm first asking for the payment, right? So it's like asking the Creator for payment in advance. Now, in this life, if you get paid in advance, great. But normally, people get paid afterwards. It's just a matter of how you're doing business. So same with the Creator, okay? The Creator is saying, no, I'm not paying anybody in advance, okay? First, you do the job, and then we check the job, okay? And then you get paid. That's how it is. It's kind of like going to the restaurant, right? You eat first and you pay later. So the Creator is saying, listen, all you got to do is do the work without any sensation of it, because if you had a sensation of it, you'd be doing it egotistically anyway. So you'd never get out of your ego. In order to get out of your ego and to want to really bestow, you have to go for it without any sensation of it. And that's the whole trick. And that's why everybody fails. A lot of people who fall off the bandwagon, they fail because they're studying, expecting some kind of a sensation. When you can feel spirituality only when you do it without an expectation. All right, once you get that trick understood, things will become easier. Then also the work does not become a burden. You see, if I'm always thinking about what I'm going to get from the Creator, okay, and I'm not getting it, I'm just going to get frustrated, like a little kid gets frustrated every time they're asking for something and mommy says no. Okay. So what's the best way to work? Best way to work is, well, you know what, I'm going to do the work and do my best and, try to bestow best I can and see how we go. All right. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, well, that was a wild goose chase of a life, wasn't it? What can you do? But think about it. In any case, we're always going after a wild goose chase. It's life. You're chasing something all the time. And you're never going to know. You never know, actually. You never know. Even when we're choosing our profession, right? We never really know if we're going to like it. We don't know if we're going to be successful. We don't know how it's going to pan out. We don't. We look at other people, see how it panned out for them, and then think, well, that doesn't look too bad. Maybe I'll try that. And that's how we get into all kinds of professions, right? From the environment. So, and then what do you do? And then you're in your midlife career crisis. Okay, that's what happens. Why? Because you didn't know, you punted it, okay? You put a bad bet on the bad horse, and that's it. Game over. So this is how life is anyway, right? So why not at least go for the full jackpot and aim for the creator, right? It makes sense. It makes beautiful sense to me, okay? If I'm going to go for something, I might as well go for the whole lot rather than mucking around with these little earthly stuff where you're going to end up dead anyway. Okay? So that's what item number 18 is telling us. All right, so we should be working under all conditions, any condition. Also in life, we find ourselves under dire situations, but we still keep walking. All right, we don't jump off the bridge every time we feel bad. Okay, so what you want to do is also in spirituality, whether you have a good day or a bad day, it doesn't really matter. If you want, the important thing is you just want to push forward, get to the goal with the right intention as best you can. And as you work more and more, it kind of, the study changes you. And that's actually called the light working on us as well. Because I'm exerting more and more with a desire to change. So that inner process is called the light changing us. Number 19. This is from Baal Islam, Shamata 241. Call upon him when he is near. We must understand what when he is near means, since the whole earth is full of his glory. Thus he is always near. So what does when he is near mean? It would seem that there is a time when he's not near. The thing is that states are always evaluated with respect to the attaining and feeling individual. If one does not feel his nearness, then nothing will come out of it, as everything is measured according to one's feeling. One person may feel the world as filled with abundance, and the other will not feel the goodness of the world. So he cannot say that there is a good world. Instead, he states as he feels that the world is filled with suffering. And the Prophet warns about that. Call you upon him when he is near. He comes and says, know that the fact that you're calling on the Creator is because he is near. It means that now you have an opportunity. If you pay attention, you will feel that the Creator is near you. It is a sign of the Creator's nearness. All right, so let's read that again. So it says we need to be a little sensitive so we can feel the Creator. Let's see how we're going to work on that one. We must understand what when he is near means, since the whole earth is full of his glory. Thus, he is always near. So what does when he is near mean? It would seem that there is a time when he is not near. The thing is that states are always evaluated with respect to the attaining and feeling individual. So that's important. Everything is judged from my perspective. So I can't really talk about the Creator. Okay, and this is an important principle to understand because it should allow me to always focus on what I'm supposed to be doing rather than what the creator should be doing according to what I think. Okay. The thing is that states are always evaluated with respect to the attaining and feeling individual. If one does not feel his nearness, then nothing will come out of it, as everything is measured according to one's feeling. So I need to place myself under circumstances where I get some feeling about the creator. One person may feel that the world is filled with abundance, and the other will not feel the goodness of the world. So he cannot say that there is a good world. Instead, he states as he feels that the world is filled with suffering. All right, so everybody's got their own perception of how the world is, but everybody, you know, if you ask everybody, everybody's got their own better opinion on how they would have created the world and run it instead of the creator. Okay, everybody's got that, whether it's a good life or a bad life, everybody's still got their opinion. Okay, because they're a little bit more smarter than the creator, I guess. So, and the prophet warns about that. Call you upon him when he is near. He comes and says, know that the fact that you're calling on the creator is because he is near. It means that now you have an opportunity. If you pay attention, you will feel that the creator is near you. It is a sign of the creator's nearness. Okay, so what should we do if the creator doesn't feel, if the person does not feel the creator? All right, so I need to be a bit more sensitive. How can I be sensitive? If I'm running around the planet in my day-to-day life, corporal reality, full on, well, I need an environment, don't I? I need an environment that will remind me that I should call upon the creator. Because if I don't have an environment to bring me to call to the creator, well, what is the creator going to do? Or he's going to slap you one so you remember. Okay, it's common sense, right? If you got a job to do and you're not doing it, or you're going to just bashed around the head and then you remember, kind of like falls in place. So the important thing here is that we need to remember to call upon the creator. And this is why we've got to study all the time. Okay, we're day in and day out studying so that we can kind of like get our head into this work. Like, okay, I need to demand for the friends. What are we working for? What are we studying for? What am I expecting from this study? Why am I living? What's the purpose of my life? How am I supposed to get this study connected to the goal? How should I be behaving and acting through what I've learned in the articles? What should my inner work be? How should I be treating the friends? How should I stick my head in the group? What does connection mean? All this kind of stuff. If I'm constantly in this work, right, then I'm like calling the creator, right? Right? Because I want to kind of resolve the dilemmas I'm in with respect to what I want to attain. And if I'm not asking myself and clarifying for myself what I want to attain all the time, then obviously I'm going to forget it. All right. When I forget it, I need a good reminder. Yeah. And you guys know how that's coming. Okay. So item number 20. Okay. There's another question here. Okay. In excerpt number 17, it's a question from Rachel. Define the word place as it's being used in excerpt number 17. Let's go to number 17. Only when one exits the place of reception. Place of reception is my desire. There's only one place. We always feel reality in our desire to receive. Okay? So that's the place. Sometimes the place is also known as the creator, because if I can bestow, the desire is the place where I can get in touch with the creator. Okay, so sometimes that's also known as, you know, like the creator. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to item number 20. It's from Shamati 190. every act leaves an imprint. We should also see that even with this freedom that we have been granted, we need great preparation and intention in order to extend the spiritual freedom called freedom from the angel of death. Then we're rewarded with the whole earth is full of his glory, called Mochin de Abba ve'Ima. This means that we do not see a time or place where the Creator cannot be dressed, that we cannot say that he cannot be dressed at that time or at that place, but rather the whole earth is full of his glory. Okay, and that was the last excerpt. Sorry about that. I just had a bug somewhere. Okay. Rightio then. Just bear with me one moment, please. Right. So any questions? No. All right, so we can do this one again. Just one. Okay, let's do this again, number 20. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a bad bug. You know, I'm like in a tropical environment, like semi-tropical, and you never know what's creeping up. Okay, so there you go. We should also see that even with this freedom that we have been granted, we need great preparation and intention in order to extend the spiritual freedom called freedom from the angel of death. Okay, so the angel of death is our current state. Okay, why? Because we live, and then we end up dead. All right, and then we've got nothing to show for. Now, obviously, some people on the outside world, in the religious world, say, well, we can go somewhere when we die. All right, well, obviously, we do go somewhere when we die, and that happens to be 6 feet under. Okay, other than that, nobody knows anything. All right, so what we have to do is to attain everything while we're living here. Okay, and that's the most important thing. So as long as a person has not attained a spiritual state, he is under the influence of the angel of death. He lives, he chases all his desires or her desires to be happy and whatever, with some kind of expectation of fulfillment, and that's it, game over. If we want to go to a higher level of perception where we live independent of the corporeal body, then we have to attain a higher level of perception where we feel our existence in that different state. We can actually imagine that to be quite normal as well, because if I can see that I'm living in a corporeal body in this perception of reality, it's only logical to expect and assume that we can also have another kind of perception of reality if we're in a different form. Okay, so all we have to do then obviously is change that perception. So we're then rewarded with the whole earth is full of his glory. It means that the person can reveal the Creator. How? Through equivalence of form, like we discussed before. Okay, so only by changing my nature and starting to perceive reality from the perspective of bestowal instead of reception, then can I feel another reality. And that reality is called it's called his glory, seeing that the Creator is doing everything and does everything. And that's where you actually are building a mutual relationship with the Creator. This is called Mochin de Abba ve'Ima. Abba ve'Ima means mom and dad, right? It's also Chochma and Bina. So the whole of reality is being run by two forces, right? Pain and pleasure, okay? So that's called mom and dad. So on the one hand, you got mom with the attributes of love and bestowal, looking after the kids, and dad is wisdom. So wisdom and mercy, okay? Those two things are called mom and dad, This is how we raise kids, and this is how the Creator is raising us as well. But instead, we don't see our mom and dad, but we see life affecting us, okay? So the kids grow up with the impact of the parents on them, right? So that's like you got mom and dad visible. We grow up with life impacting us as good and bad, right? Now, what happens with good? It's all comforting and nice. With the bad, you get slapped around, but you get wiser. All right, so that's why dad's always like, hey, Okay, so mom's always coochie moochie, and dad's always, you better watch out, son. Okay, so that's how it is. And this is how life is working. Okay, this is how life is working. So on the one hand, you got to understand, you got to get wise. And this is why we learn more from the bad days we go through. Because we always learn more and get wiser through experience. Okay, and what kind of experiences are we going through? Knocks. Okay, it's like getting knocked about, and that's how it is. Why? Because when you're having a good time, you're not really learning. You're like fulfilled. Who cares about learning anything? I'm having a great time. Okay, so nobody's really thinking about it and processing it and saying to oneself, well, I'm having such a great time, but what is the meaning of life? Okay, you don't get people asking that if they're having a great time. Nobody does that. So life has to treat you like that last drop inside a toothpaste tube, and he's just squeezing you out. Okay, and that's basically it. Okay, and that's called wisdom. That's called Abba, Dad. Okay, in other words, so dad's in the house. Okay, that's like how it's okay, fine. So everybody's sitting on a cactus. Okay, and that's how it is. So just like mom and dad govern our reality as kids, the whole system is working. And this is why we've got this structure and corporal reality as well. So it's really important to understand that, and very important to make sense, try to make sense of everything in life, not just the good stuff, not just the bad stuff, but the good stuff too. Okay, when things are going good, okay, we have a saying in Turkish, you know what, things are just too good, he's going to knock us out from somewhere. So it's always like, you got to remember, when things are too good, expect something's coming, and it's not going to be pretty. Okay, so immediately we're back in Action Jackson mode, aligning ourselves to attaining the purpose of life. All right, so you got to keep your guard up. With the Creator, it's all fun and games, but sometimes you're not feeling it very much. That's just how it is. All right, so let's call it a night. I'm going to call you guys out next week. We've got 2 questions, I do believe, so let's answer them and leave on a clean slate. Ingrid's asking, what is the ideal state of the world from Creator's perspective? Well, from the Creator's perspective, the whole world is always ideal. It's from our perspective that it's not ideal. This is why we don't feel it as ideal. Okay. So everything is always from our perspective, because when the Creator created reality, he created it with the last objective, the goal in mind. So he created imperfection in the first place. So everything is perfect in the Creator's eyes. But in our eyes, we're not. This is why we're getting slapped around. Why? And this is why we're not in equivalence of form with the Creator, with the laws of nature. And this is why we're going through ups and downs all the time, and going through bad suffering. All of humanity is going through a lot of turmoil all the time, right? And the reason for that is because we, from the human perspective, we are broken. SOK is asking, can we say that the whole world full of his glory is the attitude that we need to make efforts to activate within the 10? Yeah, it would be good if we always had that reminder. In the 10, we should always remind ourselves what we're aiming for, that there's none else besides him, and he's good that does good, even though if I'm not feeling good. Okay? Why, if I don't feel good, should I say that? Well, it should then motivate me to search for what's good behind the negative thing I got. Okay, so sometimes we see this in parents, right? We don't always get, coochie moochie, like I said. Sometimes, especially if you grew up in our house, okay, it's less of the coochie moochie and more of the grow up, okay, kind of thing. So what you got to do is, from the creator's perspective, what we want to do, whether we're going through a good state or a bad state, always trying to discover how we're going to leverage the state in order to go higher. Okay, and that's why we should be in that kind of attitude. Even if we're not in that sensation, our attitude should be in that sensation. By this, will we then come to a common prayer among us? Absolutely, because the more we're focused on what we want to attain, then we can sharpen our blades every day with the study, and then we can, give it a nice sharp call to the creator. A nice sushi knife. There we go. All right, so that should call it a night. Now, on the 4th of July, we will not have a lesson. Okay, and it's not because it's the 4th of July. Okay, because it's after the Congress. I'm going to be out of town. Okay, I'm going to be out of town, so it's not. I won't be around to be, in the studio, whatever. Okay, so we'll call it a day here. But next week, business as usual. We'll have another lesson. All the best. Have a good day. Good night. Take care.